this crazy world, it's so hard to unwind. So I'm taking time just for me. Gonna find my peace, let my soul be free. In the quiet moments, that's where I'll find a little room to breathe and leave it all behind. Give me room to breathe, I need some time to heal my heart, to clear my mind. Gonna love myself, yeah, I believe in the power of me. Just give me room to breathe.
Great new day to all my self-care friends and family. Welcome back to another Room to Breathe podcast. I am your host, Life Coach 614, and I am so thankful and grateful that you've made space to be here with us today. Now, before we jump into today's episode, I need for you to do me a quick favor. If you are feeling the vibes, go ahead and show some love. You can do so by tapping the screen, liking, commenting, but most importantly, I would love for everyone to share this out with others who could use a little healing energy today. And if this is your first time here or you haven't done so already, go ahead and hit that follow button. Subscribe to our channel so that way you are always tapped in when a new episode drops. I also want to personally invite you to check out our digital home at theselfcareclub.org, where you will find everything you need from affirmative apparel to motivational merch, as well as a ton of free resources to help nourish your growth and remind you that you are supported every step of the way. Just know that you don't have to do this alone. We are healing in community, growing one breath, one moment, one day at a time. So today, I encourage you to give yourself permission to make space for peace, for growth, but most importantly for you. And remember, if anything in today's episode hits home, be sure to drop those green hearts in the chat. That is our community's way of saying, I am healing, I am growing, and I am showing up for me. Now, let's get ready to breathe, reflect, and grow together. Elevated awakenings to you all. I see we got Tania in the building. Papa Smurf came in. We got Butterfly, Monique, Brooks. Who else we got in the building with us today, y'all? Let me see. Jordan was here. Spark Motive Daily. Soul Amazing. Shamika in the house. Welcome in, you guys. Thank you so much for being here today. Hey, girl. Hey. So listen, today we're going to have a conversation, surrounding, how do I want to put this? We're going to talk about poison today, y'all. Victoria, welcome in. We're going to talk about poison. Like that's just what it is. And our conversation is actually titled today, Stop Drinking the Poison, right? We're going to talk about letting go of pain and regret and all those other toxic patterns that are poisoning us, right? Just kind of jumping into things. When you think about holding on to what no longer serves you, it's like drinking poison and waiting for the other person to die. Like, just sit with that for a second. Because if we're being honest, welcome in, Avita. If we're being honest, a lot of us have been sipping on things that have been slowly draining us emotionally, mentally, spiritually, while we're still, out here showing up like we're okay. Still trying to love, still trying to function, still trying to pour into everybody else's cup, while something inside of us is quietly running on empty. Welcome in, Lady Blue. And the wild part about all of this is that sometimes we don't even realize that we're doing it, right? We call it loyalty. We call it love. We call it, I'm just trying to understand. We call it, I need closure. But if it's costing you your peace, if it's keeping you stuck in cycles that you've already outgrown, if it's making you question your worth, your voice, your value, we got to call it what it is. And for some of us, that poison isn't just one thing. Some of us have mixed up the ultimate cocktail of poison, right? It's layered. It's trauma that you haven't fully processed. It's the fear that keeps telling you not to let go. It's the abandonment that has taught you to hold on tighter than you should. It's abuse that made you question who you are. It's betrayal that made you stop trusting yourself. It's bitterness built up over time. It's unforgiveness that has been sitting heavy in your spirit. It's regret that keeps replaying what you wish you would have done or could have done or should have done differently. And on top of all of that, it's comparison, right? Watching other people live and grow and move forward while you're still trying to make sense of what hurt you. And let's not forget the imposter syndrome, right? That voice in the back of your mind that keeps telling you you're not really healed. You're just pretending. You don't belong in this next version of your life. You don't deserve more. So yeah, today's conversation right here may be a little bit deep, but that's what we do. We swim in the deep sometimes. Because again, today we're not going to just talk about letting go of people. We're going to talk about letting go of patterns. We're going to talk about letting go of pain, of narratives, letting go of survival modes that once protected you, but are now preventing you from healing. So again, family, today we're not going to just have this surface level conversation about just move on, just let it go. I'm not going to do y'all that way today. Nope. We're going to talk about why it's so hard to release what's been hurting you. We're going to talk about why you keep going back to it, why your mind knows better, but your heart still feels tied to it. And most importantly, we're going to talk about how to start choosing yourself anyway. Not perfectly, not all at once, but very intentionally. So let's get into this conversation about this poison that we've been sipping, y'all. And I guess to kind of start things off, I would simply just say that the poison doesn't always look like pain. Right? Let's just start right there, because I think this is where a lot of us miss it. Not all poison is obvious. It's not all loud. It's not all dramatic. Sometimes, it looks like love. It looks like loyalty. It looks like I'm just trying to be understanding. It looks like that's just how they are. It looks like I've invested too much to walk away now. And if I'm being real, sometimes it even feels noble. Like it feels like the honorable thing to hold on to. But let's dig in there, right? Let's peel that back a little bit. Because anything that consistently disrupts your peace, anything that keeps you in a cycle of confusion, anxiety, or self-doubt, anything that requires you to shrink, to silence yourself, or to overextend just to maintain, that is not love. That is not alignment. That is not something that's even serving you anymore. And here's where things get really uncomfortable, because a lot of us aren't holding on to it because we don't see the signs. We're holding on to it despite the signs that we see. Because, keep it real. You saw the inconsistency. You felt the disconnect. You noticed how your energy shifts every time you're around them. But instead of honoring what you feel, you just explain it away. You minimized it. You gave it another chance. You told yourself, maybe I'm just overthinking. Maybe I just need to be patient. Maybe it'll get better in time. And so now you're in this space where you're emotionally drained, but still very much attached. You're tired, but you're still trying. You've outgrown it, but you've yet to release it. And let's be real about something else too. Just because something started good doesn't mean that it's good for you. Just because you love someone doesn't mean that they're aligned with who you're becoming. Just because you invest time, it doesn't mean that you owe it to your future. Right? It doesn't owe it. And I think, that's probably the hard part. Because now it's not just about letting go of the situations. It's about letting go of the hope that you attach to it. The version of them that you believed in. the outcome that you were hoping for and holding on to. The idea that if you just tried a little bit harder, that it would finally become what you needed it to be. But listen to me carefully. Clarity doesn't always come loud. It's not always this loud, undeniable moment. Sometimes clarity is just quiet. It's that feeling that you keep pushing down. It's that pattern that you keep excusing. It's that inner voice that keeps saying, this doesn't feel right anymore. And here's the truth that we don't always want to accept. Ignoring what you see doesn't protect you. It prolongs you. It keeps you in something longer than you were meant to stay. So I want you to pause for just a second, and I want you to really check in with yourself. Not what you hope it is, not what you want it to be, but I want you to actually, feel what it actually feels like in this season. Your body knows. Your spirit knows. But now the question is, are you ready to listen? Are you finally tired of the way things are? Because again, healing doesn't start with letting go. It actually starts with telling yourself the truth. And sometimes the truth is just simply that, this situation, this person, this whatever it is, this mattered to me, but it's no longer good for me. And that right there is the moment that the cup starts to loosen in your hand. Now, it hasn't dropped yet, but you no longer are holding on to it the same. And honestly, that's where real healing begins. Just the acknowledgement, just the admission that this no longer feels good to me. This is no longer good for me. It served me previously, but now this is not what I need. And so when we think about what's inside that cup that we're holding on to, for some of us, it's trauma, right? We're out of the situation, we're out of immediate danger, but our body is still holding on to trauma. So let's talk about it for, just a moment. Welcome in, Queen Majesty. Thank you for the heart me. Now, trauma isn't something, it's not just something that happened to you, right? It's something that your body remembers even when your mind is trying to hold on, right? When your mind is trying to move on, right? Trauma is something that your body remembers. That's why you can say, I'm over it, but you still feel triggered out of nowhere. That's why something small can happen. Maybe it's a tone or a look or a delay in communication, and suddenly your entire mood shifts. Now you're anxious. Now you're overthinking. Now you're bracing for something that hasn't even happened yet. And you're sitting there like, why am I reacting like this? I thought I was healed from this. I thought I moved on. But here's the truth. Your mind might have processed it, but your body is still trying to protect you from it. Because trauma teaches your system one core thing. Stay ready. Right? If you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready. So if you stay ready, you won't get hurt like that again. So what does that look like in real life? Right? It looks like now you're overanalyzing everything. It looks like needing reassurance about everything and not trusting it when you get it. It looks like pulling away before someone can leave you. I got to leave them before they leave me. Or it looks like shutting down when things start to feel too close, too real, too vulnerable. It looks like you're trying, to stay in control because once upon a time you didn't have any control. And here's the part that we don't talk about enough. Sometimes you're holding on to the situation. And you know what? Sometimes you're not just holding on to the situation. You're holding on to the impact that it had on you, the way it made you feel, the way it made you question yourself, the way it changed how you move, how you love, how you trust. So even when the person is gone and the danger is no longer present, even when the situation is over, your body is still telling you, do not relax, do not trust this, do not let your guard down. And again, I want you guys to hear me when I say there's nothing wrong with you for responding that way. That is your nervous system doing its job. Its job is to protect you. So when it is telling you to stay on guard, keep your eyes open, it is protecting you, right? It got you through something that you weren't supposed to survive, but you did, right? And now, we have to have a different conversation, because what once protected you can eventually start limiting you. What once kept you safe can now be the thing that is keeping you stuck. And in this healing space, it's not about forcing yourself to just let go. It's about creating enough safety within yourself that your body doesn't feel like it has to stay on high alert all the time. And so that looks like you slowing down. That looks like you noticing your triggers without judging yourself. That looks like you asking, why am I feeling like this right now? Instead of, what's wrong with me? So you have to change the language. It looks like learning the difference between I'm in danger and this just reminds me of something that hurt me before. Because everything that feels familiar is not always current. Sometimes it's the echoes of our past. You don't have to keep reliving something just because it once happened to you. You don't have to keep carrying the emotional weight of something that you've already survived. Healing from trauma is not about erasing the past. I mean, I seriously wish that we could, but we can't. Healing is about teaching your mind, your body, and your spirit that I am safe now, that I made it through, that I survived that I don't have to keep bracing for something that is no longer happening. So if you've been feeling stuck, if you've been feeling like you're backtracking in your healing, I just invite you to pause. I want you to hear me when I say that you are not broken. You are not defective. You're just simply processing. Thank you for the heart me. You are not broken. You are not defective, right? You're just processing. And the moment that you stop judging your responses is the moment that you can start to gently release it. Because you're not that version of you anymore. And you don't have to keep drinking from that same poison cup, right? You don't have to keep drinking from something that your body held on to survive. Now you get to choose healing. Can everybody put in the chat, I choose healing? Because that is something that we get to do. It isn't something that you have to do. There are a lot of unhealed people out there in the world. So you don't have to do it, but you get to do it if you choose to. I also want to talk about fear today. I want to talk about fear, and I want to talk about the quiet kind of fear, right? Not the loud, obvious fear that tells you to run. I'm talking about that subtle fear that keeps you staying. Because fear doesn't always show up as panic. Sometimes fear shows up as hesitation. Sometimes it sounds like, what if? Sometimes it disguises itself as logic. We say things like, what if it doesn't work out? What if I regret letting this go? What if this is the best that I'm going to get? Hey, beautiful, welcome in. What if I don't find anything better? So instead of moving forward, you stay where you are. Even if it's uncomfortable, even if it's draining, even if you know it's not right, because at least it's familiar. Perfect. So you sit in that situation, even if it's familiar, because again, let's be real about something. Familiar pain can feel safer than unfamiliar peace, because you already know how to navigate the pain. You already know how they disappointed you. You already know how this cycle goes. You know when to expect the letdown. You know how to recover, barely, but you still holding on, right? Like it's predictable. But peace is like unknown territory. Peace doesn't have you overthinking. Peace doesn't have you bracing for impact. It doesn't keep you in a constant state of confusion. And for someone who is so used to chaos, this kind of calm can feel very uncomfortable. For some people, it can even feel suspicious, right? So what do we do in those situations? We question it. You finally got a peaceful environment and we start to self-sabotage it. We withdraw from it. We go back to what we know, even if what we know hurts us. And here's the truth that might hurt a little bit. Sometimes you're not afraid of losing what's hurting you. You're afraid of who you have to become without it. Some of us have signed up for the role of victim, and that is the role that we have been playing our entire life. And when you are, the type of person who has attached yourself to what it was that hurt you, even if it was 10, 20, 30 years ago. Now, all of a sudden, you're afraid of who you will be without that story attached to you. Because if you let go, now you have to set real boundaries. If you let go, now you have to start to trust yourself. Now you got to stop settling. Now you got to believe that you actually deserve better and act like it. And see, that kind of growth, it requires a version of you that you're still getting used to. And see, fear will also have you romanticizing about things that were inconsistent. You start to remember the good times, right? And you downplay everything else that they did. You just focus on the good times. You tell yourself it wasn't that bad. They didn't mean it like that. I can work with this. But again, let's bring it back to center. Anything that requires you to constantly adjust your standards, silence your needs, or question your worth is not peace, and it never will be. See, fear always keeps you, fear also keeps you stuck in a cycle of wanting, right? Wanting them to change. And more than wanting, it keeps you waiting, right? Like I said, waiting for somebody else to change, waiting for things to get better, waiting for a sign or waiting for confirmation. But while you're waiting, life is steady moving on. But here you are just waiting for an apology, waiting to be seen, waiting for attention, waiting for love. But life is just passing you by. Your energy is still being spent. Your peace is still being delayed. So I want to ask you, how long are you willing to stay somewhere that requires you to shrink just to feel secure? Because real security, it doesn't come from familiarity. It comes from alignment. It comes from knowing. Right? It comes from knowing that I trust myself to choose better. That I trust myself to walk away when something doesn't feel right. I trust myself to handle what comes next. And that's the shift. No, I'm not scared anymore, but I'm choosing myself even though I am scared. Like, that's the difference. So you could say, yeah, I'm not scared anymore. Okay. But why not just take it a step further and say, you know what, I choose me. So even though I am still scared, because I'm still very much scared of the the things in my past that hurt me. But I'm still going to choose to keep living. I'm going to choose to keep moving forward. And courage isn't the absence of fear. It's the decision to move forward anyway. So that way, when fear starts to show up, and it will, you get to just pause. Don't let it automatically make the decision for you. Ask yourself, is this fear protecting me, or is it keeping me from something better? Because everything that you're used to is not always what you deserve. And sometimes the most healing thing that you can do is simply to choose the unknown peace over the familiar pain. That's when you stop sipping on the poison just because it feels familiar. That's when you start trusting yourself again, right? You start trusting yourself enough to just put the cup down. Let's talk about abandonment, right? Because we gonna delve into a lot of these poisons, y'all. So let's jump into abandonment, right? I want to talk about the kind that doesn't always get named, but you feel it. Because abandonment isn't just the physical leaving. Sometimes they stayed, but they were inconsistent, unavailable, serving hot and cold energy, present when it's convenient for them, absent when you need them the most. And see, that kind of experience, it teaches you something deep, right? That love is unstable, that the connection can disappear at any moment, that you have to work to keep people. So what do? You grow up and you adapt. You become the one that holds it all together. You overgive, overextend, overexplain, overcompensate. You become hyper aware of other people's moods, hyper attuned to shifts in energy. And you're always trying to read the room so that way you don't get caught off guard. Because somewhere along the way, you learn that if I do enough, if I give enough, if I love hard enough, maybe, just maybe, they won't leave me. But here's the quiet truth. You shouldn't have to earn consistency. You shouldn't have to perform for stability. You shouldn't have to exhaust yourself to feel chosen. And yet you find yourself holding on tighter than you should, ignoring red flags, accepting the bare minimum, staying in situations that feel off just to avoid, the feeling of being left again. Because it's not just about them. It's also about what's triggering you, right? That feeling of I'm not enough, that I'm replaceable, that I'm easy to walk away from. So instead of risking feeling that again, you stay, even when it costs you. And here's where we have to get real. Holding on to people who are not choosing you is a slow form of self-abandonment. Because every single time that you ignore your intuition, every time that you silence your needs, every time that you accept less than what you deserve, you are leaving yourself to keep someone else. And I know that is not an easy thing to hear, because it doesn't come from weakness. It comes from a wound. But healing actually requires you to make a different kind of choice. Healing requires you to say that I'm not going to abandon myself to avoid being abandoned by someone else. It means choosing yourself even when it feels unfamiliar. It means honoring your boundaries even when it disappoints other people. It means walking away even if part of you wants to stay. Let's reframe something real quick. Being alone is not the same as being abandoned. I'm going to say it again. Being alone is not the same as being abandoned. Sometimes choosing yourself will feel like a loss at first, but you're no longer tolerating what you used to, right? So because you're no longer tolerating the things that you used to, you feel like you're missing something. But what you're actually doing is creating space for something better, something healthier, something consistent and safe, something that doesn't require you to shrink to keep it. The goal isn't just to find people who won't abandon you. The goal is also to become someone who won't abandon yourself. Because when you trust yourself to stay, to honor your needs, or to walk away when necessary, you stop clinging to other people out of fear. You start choosing them from alignment. So if you're someone who's in a space right now where you feel like you're holding on too tight, I want you to ask yourself, am I holding on to them, or am I trying to avoid feeling abandoned again? Wasted Wellness, welcome in. And see, those two things are very different. Am I holding on to them, or am I trying to avoid being abandoned, feeling abandoned? Raiders for Life, welcome in. Thank you for the follow. And see, the moment that you start to choose yourself, even when your hands are shaky, even when your heart is heavy, that's the moment you begin to break the cycle. That's the moment you stop drinking from something that's been leaving you empty, and you start pouring back into you. Another poison that we sip from is abuse. The lies that linger, right? And as we talk about abuse, I'm not just talking about what happened to you. I'm talking about more about what stayed with you after the abuse was over. Welcome in, Farah. Thank you for the heart me. Because abuse doesn't just leave bruises. It leaves memories. It leaves messages. Messages about who you are. Messages about what you deserve. Messages about what love is supposed to feel like. And the hardest part, a lot of those messages weren't true, but they were repeated to you enough that it started to feel like the truth. So now you're walking around with thoughts like, maybe I'm too much. Maybe I should have handled it differently. Maybe I'm the problem. Maybe this is just how relationships are. But I want to say this to you, and I want you to hear me. Those are not your truths. Those are imprints remaining from the things that you survived. They are imprints from what you went through. Because abuse, whether it was emotional, mental, verbal, physical, whatever, it has a way of distorting your reality. Right? It makes you question your memory, question your feelings, question your instincts. You start second guessing yourself, over explaining, right? Over explaining yourself, trying to make sense of things that never made sense. And here's where it gets even deeper. Sometimes the abuse is over, but the internal dialogue it created is still running in the background. So now, even in safe spaces, you are bracing for impact. Even with healthy people and in healthy relationships, you're skeptical. Even when things are going right, you are just sitting there waiting for it to go wrong. Because over time, part of you has now learned that good doesn't last. That love comes with pain. That peace is temporary. So instead of relaxing into something healthy, you sit and you question it. You test it. You pull away from it. Not because you want to sabotage it, but because your nervous system is simply trying to protect you from ever being hurt like that again. You know, you can leave an abusive situation and still be carrying the effects of it. You might not be, in it anymore, but it's still showing up in how you talk to yourself, what you tolerate, what you think you deserve, how quickly you blame yourself when something goes wrong. And that's the part that becomes the poison. Not just what they did, but what you started to believe about yourself because of it. So healing in this space is not just about moving on. It is about unlearning. Unlearning the belief that you are hard to love. Unlearning the idea that you have to earn basic respect. Unlearning the habit of shrinking yourself to avoid conflict and replacing it with the truth. And the truth is, you are not too much. You were just asking for what you needed in a space that couldn't meet your needs. You are not the problem. You were just in an environment that wasn't healthy. You are not hard to love. You were just given a version of love that didn't know how to love you properly. What happened to you was not your fault. But healing from it, that's where your power comes back. And healing doesn't mean pretending that it didn't affect you. You cannot heal what you keep pretending that you don't feel. It means acknowledging that, yes, that hurt me. That situation or relationship changed me. But it doesn't get to define me forever. So now, instead of holding on to the pain, you start releasing those lies. And every single time that you change that inner voice, every time that you choose not to shrink, every time that you remind yourself of your worth, you are rewriting the story. You are taking your power back. And that's how you stop drinking from something that once convinced you that you were the problem. Because you were never the problem. You were simply the one that survived it. And now you get to heal from it. I want you guys to add in the chat again, I choose healing. I choose healing. And as we add I choose healing to the chat, we're going to move forward and we're going to start talking about the poison of betrayal. Right? When our trust shuts down. Let's talk about the betrayal. Because I think that this one is one that cuts deep. Not just because of what happened, but because of who it came from. Right? See, betrayal doesn't always come from strangers. It comes from the people that you've trusted. The people that you were open with, vulnerable with. People that you felt safe enough to let your guard down around. So when that trust gets broken, it doesn't just hurt the situation, it disrupts the entire foundation. See, now you're not just grieving what happened, you're also grieving the version of them that you believed in. The safety that you thought you had. The way you used to love freely and openly without hesitation. See, after betrayal, it's not just about them anymore. Now it's about everybody. After you've been betrayed, you can't help but to start moving differently, right? You start questioning your intentions, everyone's intentions. You overanalyze words. You sit and you try to decode what they said. Like you're searching for the inner meaning. You keep emotional distance just in case. Like you get close, but not too close. Because your mind is saying, don't get too comfortable. Don't trust too fast. Don't let anybody in again. Don't let anybody that close to you again. And if we're being honest, some of that makes sense. Because when you've been hurt like that before, your system is just trying to make sure that it doesn't happen again. But I think here's the part that we have to start to confront. When you stay in that space too long, you don't just block out pain. You block out connection. Because now, even when someone is genuine, you're sitting there very skeptical. Even when somebody is consistent, you're waiting for them to switch up. Even when something feels good, you're bracing for things to just fall apart. And that's how the betrayal lingers. Not just as a memory, but now it's become a filter for how you see life. Now everything gets viewed through, was this real? Right? What if this isn't real? What if they hurt me too? What if I can't trust my judgment again? And that last one, the what if I can't trust my judgment again? That's probably the deepest part. That's the thing that I hear over and over and over again from people. Betrayal doesn't just make you question other people. It starts to make you question yourself. How did I not see that? Why did I trust them? What did I miss? So now, instead of trusting your instincts, you doubt them. You second guess them. Hey, CC, welcome in. You hesitate, you hold back. Rola, welcome in. And see, that right there, that's the part that keeps you stuck. Because healing from betrayal isn't just about learning how to trust other people again. It is also about learning how to trust yourself again. Right? Trusting that you can recognize what's not right. That you can set boundaries when needed. That you can walk away when something feels off. That you can handle it if something doesn't work out. See, the betrayal wasn't your failure. It was just their decision. And you don't have to carry it, you don't have to carry that as a reflection of your worth or your judgment or your ability to love. So healing in this space is not just closing your heart completely, but learning how to open it wisely. It looks like letting people show you who they are without rushing the process. Paying attention to patterns, not just words. Allowing consistency to build trust over time. And most importantly, not punishing new people for the wounds that they never created. You deserve connection that doesn't feel like a risk every time. You deserve love that doesn't feel like something you have to brace for. You deserve peace that doesn't come with anxiety attached to it. And yeah, it might take you some time to get there. That's okay. But don't let one betrayal convince you that everything is unsafe. Because not everyone is going to hurt you the way that they did. And more importantly, you are not the same version of yourself that allowed that to happen. You are more aware now, more grounded, more in tune with yourself. So when you feel that urge to shut down completely, I just encourage you to pause and ask yourself, am I protecting my peace or am I protecting my pain? Because there's a difference. And healing is learning how to protect your peace without locking yourself away from life and love. That's how you stop sipping from the betrayal poison. That's how you stop letting it define your future. That's how you begin to trust again. It starts with you. I choose healing. So next we're going to talk about bitterness, unforgiveness, regret. See, I told y'all I was naming all the poisons today. Okay. Well, let's talk about the weight of this poison that we carry. That, like I said, underlying bitterness, unforgiveness, the regret, right? This part right here doesn't always show up on the outside, but you feel it in every single thing. Right? You feel that bitterness that lingers, the unforgiveness for them and sometimes for yourself, the regret, I should have did this, could have did this. If I knew then what I know now, I would have did this. I would have never. They could have never, right? See, these are the things that settle in quietly, but it starts to shape how you see people, how you respond, how you move. So, okay, we'll start with bitterness. Because bitterness, again, it doesn't always show up loud. Bitterness builds over time. It's that shift in your tone, that edge in your voice, that quickness to shut down or clap back, right? That crash out, that feeling of, I'm not going for anything anymore. And while part of that might feel like strength, some of it is just pain that never got processed. Because bitterness is what happens when hurt people don't get healed. It just sits. And the longer that it sits, the harder your heart becomes around it. And then there's unforgiveness. And let me be clear about something. Unforgiveness doesn't just keep them bound to what they did. It keeps you tied to the moment that it happened. Because every single time you replay it, every single time that you think about what they did to you, every single time that anger rises back up, or you find yourself telling that story over and over and over again, right? You're right back there again. And I get it. I do. I get it. Some things were not small. Some things were not just let it go. Some things hurt you deeply. They changed you. They impacted how you see everything. So again, this is not about pretending that what happened didn't matter. It's about deciding, I'm not going to let this continue to control me. Because forgiveness isn't saying what you did was okay. It is simply saying, I am choosing, keyword, choosing, not to carry this anymore. And let's be honest, a lot of us don't forgive because we feel like it's letting them off the hook, right? So we carry that year after year after year because we don't want to let them off the hook. But what we fail to realize is that holding on to it is not punishing them. It is exhausting you. Have an amazing day, CC. Thank you for being here. It is exhausting you. It is draining every single thing. It is like a dark cloud looming over everything you do. And if we go ahead and take it a step further and talk about regret, regret will keep you stuck in a loop that never ends. You say things like, if I would have left sooner, if I would have said something, if I would have seen the signs, if I would have chose differently. So now you're living a version of the past that you can't change. But I want you to understand that you made the best decision that you could with the awareness, capacity, and the version of you that existed at the time. Growth will always make you look at your past differently. That doesn't mean that you failed. It means that you've evolved. So instead of using your growth to beat yourself up, use it to honor how far you've come. Because regret will have you stuck looking backwards while your healing is trying to move you forward. And when you put all of this together, you'll understand that bitterness hardens your heart. Unforgiveness ties you to the pain. Regret traps you in your past. And now you're carrying all of this weight while you're trying to move forward, trying to be better, trying to heal, but still holding on to what hurt you. That's the poison. Not just what happened, but what you keep reliving. That's till dawn. Elevated Awakenings, welcome in. Lotus Vibes, welcome back. So again, that's the poison. Not just what happened to you, but the parts of it that you keep reliving, right? So what does healing look like? It looks like softening without becoming weak. It looks like releasing without needing an apology. It looks like forgiving without reconnecting. It looks like giving yourself grace instead of guilt. It looks like saying, I didn't deserve that, but I also don't deserve to keep carrying it. You are allowed to move forward without having all the answers. You are allowed to heal without everything being resolved. You are allowed to choose peace, even if it doesn't feel fair. Because your healing is not about fairness, it is about freedom. Right? Freedom. So if you've been feeling heavy, if you've been feeling guarded, if you've been feeling like you're stuck in cycles of replaying the past, I invite you to pause and ask yourself, what am I still carrying that I don't need to carry anymore? And be honest, because the moment that you acknowledge it is the moment that you can start releasing it. Again, not all at once, not perfectly, but intentionally. And every time you choose to let go, even just a little bit, you're putting that poison cup down. You're freeing your hands. You're making room for something lighter. And that right there is where your peace starts to return. Y'all know what time it is. I'm choosing healing in the chat. Because remember, healing is something that we get to do if we choose to. So put I choose healing in the chat. The last part of, or the last poison that I want to talk about is the poison of comparison and that imposter syndrome poison. I promised y'all we would get into this today. Right? Because this is where you start doubting your healing. And, you know, this is something that doesn't always get called out in healing conversation, but it shows up all the time. And that's comparison and imposter syndrome. Because while you're doing the work, while you're processing and reflecting and trying to grow, you're also watching. Right? We live in this society of social media, right? So you're watching other people's lives. You're watching people smile. You're watching people glow. You're watching people move forward. You're seeing everybody level up. And without even realizing it, you start measuring yourself against them. See, all of a sudden, now your healing got a timeline. Now your progress has a standard. You allow other people to set the bar for your healing. Now your journey got a comparison point. It sounds like, why am I still here? Why does it feel so hard for me, but it was easy for them to move on? They seem fine. What's wrong with me? I should be further along now. And just like that, you take it personal. Unique, deeply layered healing journey, right? Your personal journey. All of a sudden you take it and you turn it into a race that you were never meant to run. Because comparison will have you looking at someone else's highlight reel while you're still doing the behind the scenes healing work. You don't see their breakdowns. You don't see their quiet moments. You don't see what they're still working on, what they're still working through. All you see is what's visible. And now you're judging yourself based on incomplete information. And sometimes what you're comparing yourself to isn't even real. It's curated. It is filtered. It is presented in a way that looks whole, but doesn't show the healing that it took to get there. So now you're sitting there with real emotions, comparing them to polished outcomes. And you wonder why it doesn't match. And see, this is the moment we should bring in the imposter syndrome. Because they outside knocking at the door. Because see, while you're doing this, something internally is starting to happen. Yeah, you're growing, but you don't trust it. You're healing, but you don't believe it. You're showing up differently, but something inside of you keeps whispering, you're not really that person. You're just pretending. They're going to find out. You're still going to struggle. You don't belong in this version of your life yet. Right? That little douchebag voice inside of you that just be telling you all the shit. You don't deserve that. Nobody's going to listen. But that voice didn't come out of nowhere. You built her. You built him. What up, though? You built that imposter from trauma that made you question your worth. It was built from abuse that made you feel less than. Built from betrayal that made you doubt your judgment. Built from abandonment that made you feel replaceable. So now, even when you're doing better, you don't feel better. You don't trust it. You're waiting for something to expose you or something to come in and take it all away. And see, that right there, that is another form of poison. Because now you're not just holding on to the past, you're questioning your present. You're minimizing your growth, downplaying your progress, invalidating your healing. And, healing is not a performance. It is not something that you prove. It is something that you experience. You don't have to look healed to be healing. You don't have to be perfect to be progressing. You don't have to arrive to be evolving. And so I think that somebody listening needs to hear, you're not behind. I don't care how old you are. I don't care what life looks like for you right now. You're not behind. You're processing. Girl, you are not fake. You are becoming. You are not an imposter. You are someone who survived some things and is learning how to live life differently now. And that transition is going to be unfamiliar. It is new. I'm going to tell you, I promise you, it's going to feel uncomfortable. Because you're stepping into a version of yourself that you haven't fully met yet. You don't know her. Right? Stranger danger. You don't know her yet. You don't know him yet. So of course it's going to feel shaky. It's going to feel uncertain. But that doesn't mean that it's not real. It simply means that it is new. So when you catch yourself comparing, I want you to pause. When that imposter starts talking, I want you to pause. And I want you to ask yourself, am I honoring my journey or am I judging it? Because you cannot heal and rush yourself at the same time. You cannot grow and constantly tell yourself it's not enough. So what does healing look like here? It looks like staying focused on your path. It looks like celebrating your progress no matter how small. It looks like allowing yourself to evolve without needing validation. It looks like reminding yourself, my journey is mine. That my peace is mine. Elevated Awakenings, Aisha, welcome back. That my healing is valid even if it doesn't look like theirs. And see, when you start doing that, that poison of comparison loses its power. That imposter gets quieter. All that want, silence. And you start trusting yourself again. Because the goal isn't to become someone else. The goal is to become you. Without, everything that tried to convince you that you weren't enough. And see that right there? That's how you stop drinking from the comparison cup. That's how you stop letting imposter syndrome define your growth. That is how you finally start standing in your healing without questioning if you deserve to be there. Because you do. You always have. You always will. You deserve it. So everybody type, put the cup down in the chat. Put the cup down. I want y'all to say it with your chest too, all caps. Put the cup down. Put the cup down. Come on, y'all. Who ready to put the cup down? Because look, we talked about a lot. We talked about not all poison looks like pain. How trauma can keep your body holding on to what your mind has already released. How fear will have you choosing what's unfamiliar. Fear will have you choosing what's familiar, even when it's hurting you. We talked about abandonment and how sometimes, in trying not to be left, we start leaving ourselves. Hey, Roxy. We talked about abuse and the lies that it plants that doesn't always leave when the situation does. Elevated Awakening Z, welcome in. Y'all keep putting the cup down in the chat. We also talked about betrayal and how it can make you question, not just others, but yourself. We talked about bitterness, unforgiveness, and regret. The weight that keeps you tied to the moments that have already passed. And then we even took it a step deeper and we went into comparison, into imposter syndrome, into that quiet voice that tells you you're behind, you're not enough, you're not really healed. And when you step back and you look at all of that together, it's heavy. And it's heavy not because you're weak, but because you've been carrying things that you were never meant to carry this long. And that's the truth that I want you to sit with today. You're not tired because you're doing too much. You're tired because you are holding on to too much. You're holding on to what hurt you. Holding on to what you didn't get. Holding on to who you thought they were. Holding on to who you used to be. Holding on to who you wish or what you wish you could change in life. And somewhere along the way, you've just gotten used to carrying it all. But just because you've been carrying it doesn't mean that it belongs to you. So now the question isn't, why did this happen? The question is, what am I still holding on to that's not holding on to me? And I want you to answer that honestly, right? Not for me, not for anybody else. I want you to answer that for you. Because healing doesn't just start, with forcing yourself to let go. It starts with the awareness. It starts with truth. It starts with saying, this hurt me, and I'm ready to stop hurting myself with it. And listen, I'm not telling you to drop everything overnight. Lord, I don't even know what that looks like to let it all go in one moment. Some of this is deep. Some of it is layered. Some of it is tied to experiences that have changed you. So no, it's not about rushing your healing. This is about choosing your healing. See, I hope y'all picked up how many times I said choose, right? Because choosing is your power. That is something that you get to do. You get to choose. And this is about choosing your healing, choosing to loosen the grip, choosing to question the patterns, choosing to give yourself grace instead of guilt, choosing to stop revisiting what you've already survived. Because every time you do that, you put that poison cup down. And maybe you don't set it all the way down at first, but you're no longer gripping it the same. And eventually, one day, you'll realize that you're not thirsty for it anymore. That's freedom. That's peace. That's healing. So here's what I want you to do next. Not something overwhelming, not something heavy. I'm not going to give y'all too much. But I just want you to take one step after this episode. I want you to take a moment and sit with yourself. Journal if you need to. But I want you to think it through. And I want you to speak it out loud if that's your thing, right? I want you to ask yourself one question. And I want you to answer honestly. What am I ready to release, even if it's just a little bit? What am I ready to release? Hey, Tiff. Even if it's just a little bit. And whatever comes up, I want you to start there. Now, if this episode spoke to you today, if something in this conversation made you pause, made you reflect a little, made you feel a little more seen, I want you to go ahead and drop some green hearts in the chat. Let me know I did my job today, y'all. And y'all know those green hearts are our way of saying, I'm doing the work. I'm choosing me. I choose healing. And if you are ready to go even deeper in your healing journey, I invite you to visit my website at selfcareclub.org. You will gain access to free resources. You can join our Room2Breathe project community powered by school. That's where, we continue these conversations. That's where you'll find additional tools and courses, resources, and just a community of people who are healing just like you. But listen, I want you to know that you don't have to carry this alone. We are healing in community. One breath, one moment, one choice at a time. So I don't want you to ever feel like you are alone. Yeah, you might be lonely right now, but you are not alone because there are a community of individuals who are healing out loud just like you. Now, before we close, I want to leave you with a little extra love and light. As always, I am here to encourage you to keep breathing through the highs, the lows, and every moment in between. I want you to keep choosing peace, even if it feels out of reach. And know that here at the Self-Care Club, you will always be seen, always valued, and always supported. So don't be afraid to take up space, speak your truth, and make a little room for you to breathe. I love each and every one of you to life. And I am praying that your day is not just amazing, but aligned, intentional, and yes, on purpose, filled with purpose. This has been another Room2Breathe podcast, and I cannot wait to connect with you all again soon. Remember, tomorrow we will be exclusive to YouTube, so I invite you all to join us for a Room2Breathe Feature Friday tomorrow, featuring Annette Perfect. She is going to share her story of healing, and I think that it is a great conversation for you guys to join in. So if you're not already subscribed to our YouTube channel, please head over to YouTube, search Room2Breathe Project, and subscribe so that way you're always tapped in when a new episode drops. So I will see you guys back tomorrow, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on YouTube. For everyone else, we'll be back on TikTok Monday, 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Have a great day, everyone.
Me, I